What we've got here is failure to communicate.
9 times.
Mr. Brown, Mr. White.
You know, for kids.
Mr. Blonde, Mr. Blue, Mr. Orange, Mr. Pink.
Why am I Mr. Pink?
I see dead people.
1.21 gigawatts.
Their obsession.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
No, I'm just getting warmed up.
Their words.
I'll ask you again. Did I urinate on your rug?
I drink your milkshake.
Someone else's movie.
I'm a god.
You're God.
I'm a god, not the god.
Directors, screenwriters, actors, and film fanatics record feature-length audio commentaries for the films that changed their life.
I want you to get up now.
How come Andrew gets to get up?
That's right.
If he gets up, we'll all get up. It'll be anarchy.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
That's the sidetrack.
Do you think you're out of tune?
Consequence Podcast Network.
My friendship to all of you precludes my involvement with any one of you. But if you wanna make love, then I do too, and I'll be right there behind you. All in the name of oh, all in the name of oh, all in the name of
Greetings, constant listeners, and welcome to yet another episode of The Losers Club, a Stephen King podcast. I am your host, Dan Caffrey, here with our second installment of The Green Mile. We plan to do it in one episode, but we give you the content you crave. We go long sometimes, and as a result, we have to break up our book episodes into 2 installments. So we are back for round 2. If you missed the first episode, please do go back and listen to it, unless you just want to hear the funny stuff, because today we are more or less in our lighthearted categories, something blues, something funny. We talked about characters and themes and all that good stuff in the previous one. Maybe listen to this one, then go back and listen to the first one. I don't care what order you do it. Just do it.
That'd be a fun episode. That would be a fun way to do things. I guess if you're the character from Memento, that's how you would listen to the podcast. Wouldn't it?
I don't remember this movie.
I can't remember if I liked it. Yeah, real quick, let's just go through and just remind everyone what does our rogues gallery look like if we're in the Batman universe? Let's start with you, Guy Pearce, who just talked.
Oh yes, well this will be Michael. I'm gonna skip the gross nickname I had before and just go with Monroeville Mall.
But today's the
Roffman.
episode where we get to talk about it. We said Mudhole a lot last time, but we didn't really get into why we were saying it, and today we will. In just a bit.
I know. And I'm going to reserve it for that because I was thinking about the nickname last time when we finished recording, and I felt a little dirty. I felt like I needed to hop in the shower and clean off the mud. But,
oh, God. Who do we have in the great state of Tennessee, not too far from where I am?
This is Jenn Adams, and my nickname is just like ladylike and pleasant. So
yeah,
doing good up here,
I always think of Jumanji star Bonnie Hunt.
I love her. Me too. Yeah.
Love her to death. Does she still have a talk show? Or I thought she used to have a talk show a long time ago. But,
no, I don't know. I do remember that though.
I feel like she was on Grace Under Fire or something, but she wasn't. I don't know. She just seems like someone who would be on a 90s sitcom.
Similar hairstyle, I think.
She's in Jerry Maguire though, right? Am I making that up? Am I remembering that?
She is. That's great. Might be her best role. Or no, I don't know.
Sister?
Yeah, she's so good in that.
She's great.
She's good in everything.
She's good all the time.
Love her.
Who else do we have in the Windy City in Chicago? Are you Mike and the person I'm about to introduce? Are you in the same space right now?
No.
Same block, but separate mics. Because this is Dan Delacroix Caffrey Pfleegor.
Real memento.
I couldn't think of one. It's also inspired by Macaulay Culkin. The fans voted to make his middle name Macaulay Culkin, so now his name is Macaulay Culkin.
Did he really do that? I remember reading about it. But I
read
sure
on GQ that he hasn't officially changed it with the government yet, but he goes by it.
Yeah, let's see if he really does it. Really goes through.
He seems legit funny. I like Macaulay Culkin.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, I think he's very funny.
Well, I did look it up, and it seems as if the Bonnie Hunt show only went on from 2008 to 2010. So those 2 years we were gifted.
I mean, it's time for a reboot.
I agree.
We can title it The Bonnie Hunt Show.
Yes, just do it all. Yeah, right. Like a certain Scream or Halloween or
I
Rambo.
feel like they've been doing that. Know what it was for a while. I feel like, and we'll get to the book soon, folks. I promise. But what it was for a while was they weren't doing the outright identical title of the original, but a riff on that. So like we had Rocky Balboa, right, and we had John Rambo. I feel like we were doing even the Fast and the Furious series. It was like what Fast. Was it Fast
They would
5?
play
and
around
it was
with
just
it.
Fast and Furious.
Too fast, too furious.
Which is still a little dumb, but man, now we're really just we're just using the exact same name. Just every horror movie, especially that comes out. But
Jen, you tweeted something today that was, I think it was from Citizens, that was just like, what is Scream 2 or what is Scream 6 going to be called? Like Scream 2? I mean,
exactly.
It's so ridiculous.
It's insanity. Well, also, like, you've guaranteed that I'm never going to call your movie by its actual name.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have to differentiate it between one of my favorite movies. So.
That's why we say Halloween.
To be slightly contrarian, I actually read a good tweet on it, though, where if Scream is in fact parodying the state of horror movies, it would sort of make sense for them to just call it Scream, because that's what all the other horror movies are doing. And I was like, okay, that's not
I
bad.
will say, if they reference that in the movie, like if they actually make it a thing, then I could. But I don't know. It also could just be a dumb marketing thing. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who
But
knows?
I think that's what it's kind of making fun of, though. But who knows?
Dumb marketing thing.
I'm not too passionate either direction.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
the good
who gives a
news
shit,
is that
really,
when
right?
they adapted The Green Mile in 1999, they stayed to the title.
What if they changed it to like The Blue Mile or something?
yeah. Just
Or
like,
if they
wait,
adapted
kilometer.
Right.
If they adapt it again, it'll just be called The Mile. Like that would be like a 2008 move to do.
It's sexier, you know.
Yeah. Well, we are here to talk about The Green Mile. Obviously, that actually wasn't even too long of a tangent we went on.
No, not too long.
That was a good one. It's just a nice icebreaker, easing back into it. And like I said, we're picking up today with I don't want to call them the less important categories, but maybe the breezier, the less hefty categories. We talked a lot last time about race and the greater thematic implications of the book and the things King does really well, the things he struggled with. We're getting into some fun this time around. Not that there won't be a spot for serious analysis, but it's going to be. If last time was the Hulk roller coaster, this is going to be that Cat in the Hat ride at Universal. But hey,
I like the Cat in the Hat ride.
I do too, actually. You shouldn't be going to Universal right now, though, because we're in a pandemic, even though I'm sure it's open. Okay, so the first category we are going to do is a little something we like to call misery.
She died. She just slipped away.
Slipped away! Slipped away! She didn't just slip away! You did it! 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 You murdered my misery!
Penny!
Welcome to Misery, where we talk about maybe some things that didn't work so well for us in the book. And this can be specific passages or just something in general or characters. Now, we talked a lot last time about how we love the prose in this book, even with all the problematic things in it. So I'm always interested to hear what people have to say. I don't have like a specific passage because I really do love the writing so much, but I have like a specific thing that happens. But I'll hold off. I don't know if someone else wants to go first, if they have something they want to read, maybe.
I mean, for me, a lot of it ties into just the easy descriptions that King tends to fall into. And also, descriptions that really make it hard to kind of pivot away from the case that, like, sensationalizing the capital, like the magical Negro trope a little bit, and he does it sometimes where some of his descriptions are a little too ostentatious and a little too over the top for me. Like on page like 277 in the Pocketbooks edition, King literally writes like the mask had peeled away from Delacroix's face enough to reveal features that had gone blacker than John Coffey's, and it's just like, come on, like it just seems so these like call outs and he does it a bunch of times throughout the book.
Yep.
And that's certainly something that is in the editorials that you are probably reading from the first episode that we shared with many writers that came out and talked about this conundrum. And it just, when you read those segments, it does make you go, okay, I can see where all the criticism.
I think anytime you're using a visual comparison when the root of that isn't another race. It's I can't think of an instance where that works especially well. I think a lot back to In the Stand, where King constantly refers to Leo Rockway's Chinese eyes, which is so weird. And then in Night Shift, in the short story Trucks, I think it's Trucks, it could be another one, but they talk about negroid lips a lot, and it's it's just, I mean, and like I said, he's gotten better at that as he's gone on, but I can't really think of an instance where that's a good idea to use another race as, and in King's case, describing something grotesque, right? It's like, it's very rarely like, oh, it was as pretty as this, but yeah. What else? What about you, Jen?
I had quite a bit in Misery, and they tended to fall into kind of two categories. One was what we were talking about just a minute ago. And one of the ones that I pulled was when he's describing Beverly Matuomi at the very beginning of the book, who was one of the only female prisoner on the mile. And this is like in just the first couple of pages, so it introduces you to the way Paul sees the prisoners, which I think is significant. But he says she was as black as the ace of spades and as beautiful as the sin you never had nerve enough to commit. And that's just such a like kind of degrading way to describe her. And I talked a little bit about this last time, so I won't go too deep into it. But the other category that I found a lot in was the stuff that was too kind of, that I didn't want to put in Pound Cake because it bugged me too much, you know? There's
Pound Cake's kind of fun sometimes, you know? You
it
want
is,
the
but there was
yuckiness sometimes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there were some, it just went a little too far. And I think that's kind of overall what all of my misery was. Like, and I listened to this too, so I'm hearing Frank Muller talking about gosh, I don't even want to say some of it because it's so like, Jesus Christ.
I haven't listened to an audiobook in such a long time, and I forget that, oh my gosh, some of the stuff has to sound so weird reading it out.
La-di-da. All right, Professor.
Right.
Well,
this one.
What can I say? It's meant to be read.
Yeah.
So
why watch TV when you could crack a book?
Hey, I got to commute, so I'm going to be walking and listening. Yeah, but I know what you mean. But yeah, there was one where Melly was talking, and she said,
"It's so bad."
I know, and it just kind of crossed the line into like, what are you doing? You know, people don't talk like this. But it says, "Whoever you are, just stay out. I'm not dressed. My tits are out. My bitch box is taking the breeze."
Yep.
And the way he read it was, I was just like, holy shit.
It's so funny when he goes on these tears, and I don't know, I kind of like it when like Toot does, you know, he's this dirty old man. Like, okay, that's how that guy would talk. I don't know, maybe some of you have some of his jokes in Misery, but he puts in the mouths of characters sometimes where I don't think they would say that. Now, granted, she's in somewhat of an altered state, right? But at the same time, and we touched on this last time, I think sometimes when he portrays deathly ill people, they not only become delirious, they just become fucking filthy. And I just don't. And sometimes it's funny and it works, but I'm like, man, he always does that. It's this very, and I always feel like that's King just unloading his toilet humor tank or something. It's like compulsive almost.
Yeah, and it's like it just takes me out of the story when it goes that far. People don't talk like that.
Would she? No. What was her bitch box? What was it? Like,
yes.
Right. Yeah. Taking the breeze, and I just hear him because the voices he does in this book are fantastic, and so a lot of these are like kind of burned into my brain because I've listened to it so many times. But you know.
Yeah, I've made this criticism on other episodes, but I think sometimes he just wants to play with the writing a little too much because he'll take a common nursery rhyme and then kind of spice it up. Like,
oh yeah.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, get your tigers in a row, and it's like, it's not really the way it goes, but it's just him playing with it.
Just use the regular nursery rhyme. Yeah,
that's right. But I know, but there's always some variation, and I'm like, wait, is this like a main version? And I'm like, no, this is just Stephen King having fun.
the main variant.
Copyright.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Bitch Box is a good example of him.
Yeah, the rhyming scheme is like one of my least favorite things that he does.
Was it the It episode we were talking about? I think Randall is mentioning the wisecracking ghost, and even though that's the tiger thing isn't that, it does come from this like, oh, I'm just gonna be real jocular and fucking dirty and fuck you. It's just really
well, it's like the happy crappy thing. Like he does these little sayings sometimes to like kind of distinguish different characters, and for me, it just takes me out because I'm just like, did this person like walk out of the world from the movie Cool World? Like it's just like they all are cartoon characters when they do this type of stuff.
Like their Simpsons catchphrases.
Yeah, because I mean there are things that when you look at reality and you see things that people say and, you know, little quirks that people have, most of the time they're not sayings that people say over and over again. They're like little words that people, like adjectives that people will always use. Like my brother uses the word beautiful all the time and it drives me fucking nuts. Like I'll be like, everything's not beautiful. Like it's not, like find a different word. And like he gets angry and I get it because I've always corrected him on different words and stuff like that. But it's like word uses that are like repetition is one thing. But like when you're making like weird sort of like cutesy words for people, like it just does, it seems so like potpourri almost. Like, it's just like, it's so like flowery. It just doesn't work for me. Like it seems so like too colorful in that respect. And he did it a lot in his early 70s stuff, I felt like. And lately it's more like pop cultural references that he does that seem like, or maybe like hip slang that maybe seems like he thinks is popular or is more popular than it actually is, though. I don't know. It's stuff bothers me. It drives me nuts sometimes.
No, that's a beautiful point, Mike. I think sometimes he does try to.
Yeah, shut the fuck up.
Did you have another one, Pfleegor? Another?
Not a passage per se, but the more, and I liked Paul. He's one of my favorite characters in the story, but I don't know how dynamic of a character he truly is. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously, like taking coffee out of the jail is a big deal. That's a very heroic act. But the really heroic thing would be not to execute him, but instead Coffee kind of is like, it's okay, I got to go. And Paul's like, well, he wants to go anyway. So it's like, I don't really know what Paul learned. He's more of just a kind of a perfect narrator. He's not a very flawed character. And you don't have to be flawed, but just putting critical lenses on, maybe his character could have given a little bit more dimension.
I hadn't really thought that yet, because he doesn't really
suffer. If anything, he keeps getting cured and doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he gets punished by time a little bit, but yeah, he doesn't really have. I mean, I guess is with Jan dying like she does young, but that's not really a result of. I mean, maybe it is. I guess you could.
I mean, I guess if you cut other people's life early and then you live long, but
well,
but he has companionship too.
I have some King's Dominion about that to discuss with in conjunction with another book that all of us have read, but we haven't reached on this podcast yet. But I agree, Pfleegor. I felt that his dynamism or dynamic, I don't know what the word
dynamism.
Dynamism?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, like I think it doesn't really it doesn't bobble or come to the surface until like those last sections at the end, when you actually get a sense of pathos for him. Because before that, he really just serves as like a narrative vessel.
He's kind of like the Nick Carroll kind of narrator from. I feel like I always talk about that, but from Great Gatsby, just this idea of someone who observes and. I mean, it's interesting because he is the protagonist, right? But I don't know, and it's funny too because I always think, I'm like, well, do characters have to change? Sometimes that can be interesting, but some of the issues we have with the book, like we said last time, was, to your point, Pfleegor, this idea that it's like he learns something, but he doesn't really put it into action in his life. You know, like I think he knows what he does bad, but we don't really see him do that in a way that results in any kind of meaningful change later on in the book.
Yeah, I don't think you have to. I mean, you can do anything you want, right, with writing conventions. But when the story like this is largely a conventional tale, at least structurally, I think adding in that sense of dynamism. I can't say it, Mike. avoiding being static, I'll say.
The opposite of static.
But yeah, I just think it would have been because it was a big risk taking Coffee out of jail. But the only person he really would have got in trouble with, he saved his wife. So. There weren't a whole lot of consequences there, and also Coffee was so passive that it wasn't like he was going to fight, and they sort of knew like he's not going to try to escape. So I don't know, just that I still really like the Paul character. Just that was my little misery issue.
And it's funny because I think the misery that I'm going to bring up, it's similar to Pfleegor's in that if King had maybe acknowledged it a little bit more or made it a point of self-awareness, I think it would have worked for me just a little bit. It's not a specific passage, but it's this idea. And I think the reason I criticize it is because he does it in so many books where we get a glimpse into the future and we see what happened to every character. Now, granted, part of this book is that Paul gets to live a lot longer than everyone else, right? So they would die. I don't have a problem with people dying throughout his life, but between Jan's bus accident, Dean, the guy who, you know, they kept out of the coffee business so he could live a happy life with his wife and kids, he gets transferred and gets stabbed in the neck by another inmate, like cruelly, like a few months after this starts. Even Brutal doesn't live to be that old. He lives to, I think, to be in his 50s, and he died. He gets a heart attack while eating a fish sandwich. Now, I'm not saying that horrible things don't happen to good people throughout their lives, but when I think of The Body and how not in the movie but in the novel, Chris Chambers, who actually makes a better life for himself, gets his fucking throat slit over an argument at a fast food restaurant.
And then Vern burns alive.
Burns alive because someone passed out at a party and left a cigarette burning, and then Teddy dies in an automobile accident. I understand that you know, like I said, bad things happen to good people and things don't always end really happily. But and in the Green Mile's case, I don't mind that they all die, but almost none of them, except I think Harry, get to live into old age, except Harry and Paul. And the ways in which they die are either so mundane or so cruel and punishing that it does feel like King just being a little fatalistic. And once again, if he was really acknowledging that, there was some higher force that is really intentionally punishing us for what we did to John Coffey, I would get it, but it doesn't really quite go there. So I think sometimes, and because we'd seen it before in The Body, I just get a little, okay, King, not everything has to be the worst thing imaginable, you know? And I think it just puts a little bit of a damper on the end of the book for me. I don't know if the rest of you felt like that, though.
They also don't have to be so memorable, you know? They could just be like, is someone, you know, hey, I heard he passed away. And that seems far more natural to me than anything. You know?
I think Dean's especially feels so cruel. It's like he requests a transfer and then he gets stabbed in the neck by a prisoner later on. It feels awful to me. But yeah.
And if that had been the only one, if it had been Jan and Dean and then everybody else just like died when they were old, I feel like it wouldn't stand out so much. Yeah, it's like he just like kind of not falls in love, but he like latches onto these little vignette deaths that he just kind of like wants to throw these creative pieces in. You know,
it's kind of like fetishizing tragedy a little bit. I think
that's what I thought too, and that's the problem I have with Jan's death, because I just felt like, why does it have to be this bus accident? Like, and you could easily have something where you see Coffey like on the sidelines somewhere, or you know, maybe she passes away in the morning or something like that, and then you see him, you know, walk by. I don't know, something that seems a little more natural than, well, we were on this bus, we were having a pretty nice day, and then I survive. Like I'm the character from fucking Unbreakable or something. I was
gonna say, yeah.
Like it just seems so.
Does he talk about like he's holding her, like blood's coming out of her eye?
Yes,
it's
ridiculous.
Just so graphic.
I don't know.
It's just so nasty.
It's too much, and I think Darabont does the right choice in not having that in the movie.
I think that's why in Stand By Me is still sad. The fact that Chris gets killed is still really awful, right? And I'm fine with that in Stand By Me, because that's what's making him go back in his memory a little bit, right? But then do we also need to stack on these other two kids from the wrong side of the tracks? They got killed in horrible ways too. So yeah,
it's almost like it's like King saw American Graffiti in the 70s and he was like, that was a good movie, Tab. I think I'm gonna outdo these endings, and everyone's gonna be John Milner. We're just gonna have every death be John Milner. Like,
it does feel like that a little bit, and it's such a cheap move in movies. I think. I mean, they do this in like in Boys in the Hood, for instance, at the end. Boys in the Hood, I get it a little bit, because part of it is the way these guys grew up, right? But I feel like if Doughboy walked away and just either faded away or Trey just watched him walk away, we get it, right? We're like, no, Doughboy, we know is not going to come out on the other side of this. So like the movie has done the work already to imply that. But then they put this thing of Doughboy got shot like a week later, and you're like,
I know,
it just feels a little cheap to me. But I don't know.
Well, it's like this like last minute, like, did we get him enough? Let's tug at the tears a little bit more. Here we go.
Last one's like
a Hail Mary.
Was it Bertram got really lost in the 70s?
In the 60s, and it's just like,
60s.
Oh wait, so did he become a hippie? Did he go to Canada?
Yeah,
did he go to Vietnam?
Did he join the Manson cult, or
Yeah, you never know. I guess we'll find out in the Sandlot reboot coming to Disney Plus in the future.
Is it called The Sandlot?
The Sandlot.
I think it's probably good. I think it is just called The Sandlot again. Or
what if they call it The Lot, but then then Stephen King fans think it's Salem's Lot, and just it's this whole PR nightmare. They're like, God damn it.
There used to be a house here, and all the King fans are just like, the Marston House, and it actually ends up being like James Earl Jones' house from the.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, is that my dad's A-Rod ball?
Yeah. they go and they go, oh, there's a dog there. It's Cujo. Like,
yeah, right.
Well, cool.
That would be a good Castle Rock season 3.
I mean, it probably would be like that.
R.I.P.
To be honest, yeah. Well, if no one has any other misery to discuss, we're going to a little bit more of a positive category right now.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh, please do. Yeah.
I had a misery. And the other thing that really kind of bugged me about this book, and it kind of like informs how I see the whole thing, is I feel like there's a worldview that he has, that Paul has, where, and so the passage I'm talking about is when he's talking about the little boy with a scar on his face. And
who gets bit by the dog, Burt Hammersmith's kid?
And that story is horrifying, but like he spends an entire paragraph talking about how miserable this kid's life is going to be. Like, he would never be asked to play spin the bottle or post office, and would probably never sleep with a woman not bought and paid for once he had grown to manhood's times and needs. And it's just like he goes overboard trying to describe this, and it really just kind of like it's a pattern of seeing everyone who is not like this perfect like white man model of humanity or wife as like less than, and they're gonna suffer,
And it's like, it's just a scar, and scars are cool.
Exactly. They are cool. Hey, I got
cool,
a scar on my face. I'm cool, I still got 2 eyes though, so.
Yeah, I guess that. Maybe a little bit of ableism. I mean, granted, I can't remember. Is that coming from? That's Paul saying that, right? Not Burt
That's Paul
Hammersmith?
in his head thinking that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, because we keep seeing that, and that's when it kind of slips past being Paul and kind of feels like King is saying that, like it kind of feels a little more like endorsement when it doesn't in other places,
Yeah, no,
and it just really kind of shades the way I look at the book.
That's what I'm saying, man. Paul's a little bit more of a dick in the novel.
He is
than in the movie. Well, cool. So, if no one else has any more misery to discuss, everyone get on your coats. It's a little cold out. Maybe bring some sage and some, I don't know, what keeps away the spirits. I guess we're about to find out in the cemetery.
What's the bottom of the truth?
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back. It may look like that person, but it ain't that person. Because whatever lives in the ground beyond that cemetery ain't human at all.
I almost tripped over the deadfall over there. About that. Whoa!
Really specific. Whoa, the Wendigo force almost.
Yeah,
I think I heard the.
I saw the old neighbor walking across the deadfall. Yeah. His hair was silver.
I just rewatched the original Pet Sematary, and I completely forgot this. It's on the deadfall scene where Lewis is going to bury Gage. Mm-hmm. That I think it's Judd's face that emerges from the quarry surrounded by rocks. It's so weird.
I think it's supposed to be foreshadowing that like these are going to be like, this is the consequence that's going to be, coming in the near future. If you bury Gage here, this is who will die.
It's funny because it reminded me of like Muppet Christmas Carol, where the door knocker morphs into Statler, Marley's face. Yeah, it was. I know Pet Sematary so well as a film, and I always forget about that part. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting choice there. That's cool.
There are a lot of weird kind of things that she does in that movie, like even just like the way the lighting is when Missy dies in the
I always
basement.
Laugh at the way Lewis hits his head is really horrifying to me on the nightstand. It's so bizarre.
I remember we brought that up with her too when we interviewed Mary Lambert.
I was gonna. It's funny because it's been a long time since I've listened to that episode. I just did a Slay SMR on it. I even mentioned that. I'm like, oh, we interviewed her in the Losers Club. I wonder if they asked her about that. What did she say about that? Was she like that?
She said that was total accident, but it was on screen and he stayed in character. It didn't change and everything. But
it's so
it was definitely a concern because it could have taken his eye out.
Every time I watch it, I wince at that scene. It's so hard to watch.
Ugh, man, awful. Well, we could talk about what makes us wince in the cemetery, or we could talk about what makes us wince in the Green Mile.
I think we go with the latter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so we talked a little bit about this last time, how and even in the marketing, they were trying to make it like it was one of King's spooky ooky books. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. That being said, there's one scene in particular that was really frightening to me, and maybe we all have the same scene. We'll see. And so, like I said, I would not classify this as a horror novel, but I still think there were some thrills, chills, and spills to be had here. So maybe let's go around and talk about the scariest scene. And I think if there's overlap, that's fine because they're fewer and far between here, but they are still there. He's my namesake on this episode, but I mean the whole bad death of Edward Delacroix sequence to me was way more gruesome and grislier than I imagined. And aside from some of the racial comparisons we brought up, I thought it was quite effective, like where his eyes are bursting into white jelly and just this idea that he's not just burning, but everything's just sticking to him. In the movie, it's still pretty frightening, but from what I remember, I think he just, the thing lights on fire and we get a glimpse of his body later. But this was like true body horror, just a really visceral scene. What did the rest of you think, though? Was it effective for you? And like I said, way grosser than I remembered it being.
Yeah, talking about his skin peeling off, like when you move the cap.
Yeah. Ugh. And like even the stuff that they said was like the chest, when they're like peeling things off of the chest, like how the pieces of skin was falling off of that. I mean, it's just, you couldn't do that on screen. You know,
it wouldn't work in the film, right? Like,
it would change the movie. I feel like it would totally change the movie.
Yeah, the eyes are what really got me. How long it is too, and the fact that they don't really get to go on this in the movie, but the fact that they kind of just have to let it happen, right? Like you really get a sense in the book of how long this is going on and how long does it actually take a guy to die when he doesn't have the water serving as kind of a conduit to pass the electricity through himself. Yeah, and I was just, it's funny that a whole chapter is named after that, but it is a pretty pivotal event because of, it does lead to, leads to all this chain reaction of stuff with Percy. But yeah, I read that chapter or that part of the novel really late at night, and not that it gave me nightmares, but it was one of those late night reading experiences where I was like, ooh, this is making me kind of cringe.
It's funny because I was approaching that before bed, and I just like, right before that break where it goes into the new book about it's titled his death. I was like, I'm going to save this for the morning. I'll read this over coffee. I think that'll be better to have
a breakfast read. Over coffee?
I don't think it's too bad.
Like the drink,
yes, it was coffee spelled like the drink. Yeah.
What other scenes did that for me was like
Delacroix? Just in regards to that though, I say if you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
Oof. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Here's something to consider. Based on what we were talking about in Misery, and the fact that you have all these gruesome deaths, this is kind of a loose little theory here, but there is some symmetry to the deaths of the consequences to what their actions were. So like if you look at Dell's past, he caused a fire, right? And it burned everyone, and that caused he basically gets set on fire here. So it's almost like King's operating in the same way as the writers do for any Nightmare on Elm Street movie post the third one, where it's like someone's like, I really like puppets, and then like they end up being a puppet in like their dream or something like that. You're like, oh, cockroaches, and then they turn into a cockroach. So it's almost like you could make the argument that like King is working with that sort of cautionary tale, morality tale there. I don't know, but that could be a reach.
No, there's a little bit of poetic
I saw that
justice,
as well. Yeah, just the fact of like the flame shooting out of him, right? You're like, okay, I see this connection.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking too because, I mean, they're all bad, right? Because the getting electrocuted is not fun. But Coffee has relatively smooth execution, which I mean, he shouldn't die at all. But I guess if we're like categorizing the awfulness of the deaths in the book, his is at the bottom, which is good.
See, I will say that with Coffee though, there's the one part where they talk about how his ankles are strapped, but his knees are pistoning, and he has so much strength that if you weren't holding him down completely, like his legs would just be going all over the place, and that was a really impactful visual for me.
Yeah,
there is one.
It is funny because we get to see, gosh, 3 electric chair executions. We could see them in detail too between Bitterbuck, Delacroix, and Coffee. And King does do a good job of differentiating them, I think, as well.
How many miracles do we get?
2.
We get
right?
Only
No, 3.
3, right?
3, I guess.
There's
because
the mouse, the urinary tract infection, and then Melly.
Some symmetry there.
You could also say killing Percy is a miracle.
Oh, that's true.
Or not killing Percy, but
killing
Warren, yeah.
And destroying his mind.
Warren's death is interesting too because they talk about how he wants to go out in some sensationalist blaze of glory, and he really doesn't. He actually has the most muted, unglamorous death in the whole book,
which kind of mirrors how like he thinks he's this wild asshole guy, and really he's just a little twerp.
Yeah, he is. He's like this creep, this like 9-year-old creep. What other scenes were people disturbed by?
There's one line that still stays with me. King is so good at doing this with these little one-liners that just ring in your head forever. And he's especially good at that when he's inferring ghosts. For me, it's on 358 in the Pocketbooks edition. I read this early in the morning, so it was still dark out and everything. And this just chilled me. It's when they're walking coffee past outside to get to to the truck, and he looks over and he's noticing that like coffee won't move, and he's like, they're still in there, pieces of them still in there. I hear them screaming. Like that line, and the fact that it sticks with Paul and with coffee and with all the men that heard it. That just, that got me, because I think about that so many times when you go to places of trauma, and you also hear about people that visit places that are historical battlegrounds, or places where horrific things happen. Like when people talk about if they go to Auschwitz or or Dachau or any of the prisons, like there's a feeling that you have there, and people always kind of assume a parallel or connect that to the feeling that you're hearing the souls like reaching out and pining. And that idea of just this chair, this menacing chair, which obviously is already creepy enough, this beacon of evil and the sense that it taketh away the death. Just the lone singularity of the chair sitting there in that line, just I keep thinking about it. And so for me, that's the scariest part of the book for me, that little line, just that one line.
Nice.
I have one more to add.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, please.
Mine, it's not as big of a deal, I guess. But the Mr. Jingles, when he gets stepped on,
it is
there's a
creepy
specific line where he's like, when I picked the mouse up, I winced at the feel. There were so many splintered bones poking out at various spots of Mr. Jingles' hide that it felt like picking up a fur-covered pincushion. It's just something about animals suffering that really bothers me. I know that doesn't bother you guys as much. You'd rather see it.
No, that whole Jingle sequence
really
is
to me. Yeah,
that whole Jingle sequence is really riveting. Yeah, and it. I love it when any book can do this. It's something you know how it's going to end. I've seen the movie, I've read the book a million times, but I really was still in suspense of, is Mr. Jingle's going to make it? And not only does he make it, he gets to live longer than any mouse on the history of the earth. Jen, what about you? Any? And it's okay if you had listed some of the things we've already talked about.
Well, I had some of what we've talked about, and the part where they're still here. Blah, blah. And again, Frank Muller reads this so well. Like the way he delivers those lines makes them twice as creepy. Because I had Jan's death there, just mostly I think because of the way he reads it. It just really brings out the eeriness to it. But I had two, and they were kind of just these small little lines, and one of them was talking about the Dedrick twins and their mom. And it says, it's on part 1, page 42. Their mother kissed them goodnight just shy of 9 when the last light had gone out of the sky. It was the final time she saw either of them until they were in their coffins and the undertaker had repaired the worst of the damage. And just reading that was just like an ice pick in my heart. It was like, oh my God, that's terrible. And then the other one that I had was, speaking of like the symmetry of the deaths, was about the Prez's death. And it's one that has really stuck with me because he does not get electrocuted. He ends up like getting killed in the prison laundry, I think, after his sentence has been commuted, and like his face in the dry cleaning acid or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it said, as for the Prez, someone shoved him face first into a vat of dry cleaning fluid and held him there. When the guards pulled him out again, his face was almost entirely gone. They had to ID him by his fingerprints. On the whole, he might have been better off with old Sparky, but then he never would have had those extra 12 years, would he? I doubt he thought much about that then, though, in the last minute or so of his life when his lungs were trying to learn how to breathe Hexlite and lye cleanser. And just like thinking about your lungs trying to learn how to breathe these chemicals just has really stuck with me and always disturbed me.
I think that's a good example also of, I feel like a lot of the criticisms we give King on this podcast is when his writing feels a little bit overwrought, a little bit extra, a little bit purple. And he does do that sometimes, right? We always talk about how he just keeps a bad paragraph going for 3 lines too long sometimes. And I think hearing you read that out loud, it does remind me, when he keeps it simple, he's capable of just some really effective, gorgeous, chilling prose. I actually like that stark minimalist King a little bit better, because even there he doesn't he doesn't go into a ton of details about how the guy's face looks, or lack of a face looks. He doesn't really go into what the chemicals actually did to him, but just more this, like you said, this idea of lungs trying to breathe a foreign liquid. That is really, really unnerving to me.
Oof,
Any, like I said, this was always going to be a short section in this book, right? It's not like we're reading Pet Sematary here, but any other spooky stuff? Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I thought it was really chilling when on page 157, again of the pocketbooks edition, when Paul is just going to watch television and he sees Percy on the television screen. There's something really chilling about what media does with our memories. I remember I love talking to my dad whenever I'm home about old movies. Like we always watch like TCM when we're at home. And I love watching movies that he saw in theaters, back in like the 50s and 60s, because the cognitive dissonance between then and now is just it's added so many layers of memories to it and so many rewatches. So when I hear his insights to it, I know what he's seeing on screen is different than what I'm seeing on screen. And there's this passage here on 157 that I guess could be construed as word processor, but I just got it cemetery just because it really kind of shows the in a cynical pivot the cruel ways of life. He says, for an old fart like me, that's sort of soothing, basically to be down there watching AMC. There have been many a good nights when I've slipped right off to sleep on the ugly green sofa in front of the TV while Francis the talking mule one more pulls Donald O'Connor's skillet out of the fire, or John Wayne cleans up Dodge, or Jimmy Cagney calls someone a dirty rat and then pulls a gun. Some of them are movies I saw with my wife, Janice, not just my lady friend, but my best friend, and they calm me. The clothes they wear, the way they talk and walk, and even the music on the soundtrack, all those things calm me. They remind me, I suppose, of when I was a man still walking on the skin of the world instead of a moth-eaten relic moldering away in an old folks' home where many of the residents wear diapers and rubber pants. First off, that's enough to warrant a cemetery for me. Then he says, there was nothing soothing about what I saw this morning, though. Nothing at all. And then, he goes on to talk about what he saw, and he saw the ghost, and a lot of it is just because it's all day residue in his head, and he's just thinking about all these characters, and Brad Dolan reminds him of Percy, and he's talking about Percy, and yada yada yada. But again, it's that line like that King can do, where he's just like, "There's nothing soothing about what I saw this morning, though. Nothing at all." King is so good at doing those hooks, those cliffhangers, where you don't even need to say anything else. You can kind of, he's already done enough inferring, enough alluding. And I love that. And that's one of the reasons why some of the scariest moments in his books for me aren't even the stuff that you see. It's the situational stuff that he alludes to. I think about like The Shining, and about how you don't even really see what's in the hallway when he hears the dog, the man in the dog costume walking around the hall. He just hears it, and then eventually he does see the thing down the end of the hall. But like, your imagination plays so many tricks on you when you think about that stuff. But yeah, that tied with the crippling reality of knowing that we're all just going to be a body bag one day is just, I don't know. It's hard. There's a place in Lincoln Park in Chicago that was right next to Best Buy when Best Buy still existed. I think now it's a Target. But we'd walk out, and I'd be like with my brother at the time, and I remember like one time we like bought a PS4, and we were like so excited. We're like, oh, we're gonna go home and play Star Wars Battlefront. And then like we walked by
Did he say this PS4 is beautiful, Mike?
He said this is a beautiful, beautiful game,
beautiful machine.
And I was like, Philip, you got to stop using that word, but let's go play this game. And I just remember walking by this like nursing home that was right next to the Best Buy. And it just always just kind of like, ugh, like takes it just punches me in the gut, because you just see like all these people that are sitting there, and I guess they're comfortable, like he says, in that passage, watching that movie. But in reality, you're stuck with these memories. And God, memories hurt. They really do. I get a lot of flack for saying this. And I know one of my buddies, Phil Casoras, gave me shit about this one time when I said like memories are a dagger or something like that. I said something really cynical about it. But I can't imagine when I'm older and I'm sitting there and I'm going to look fondly back on memories. I'm going to be seeing them as it's kind of like the carrot in front of the horse for me. Maybe that's just me looking at life half glass empty.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's something you have to actively fight against in a way.
Yeah.
You know, because I found myself as I get older, and maybe it's just this year because we can't see people like we used to, and we're just thinking about times that weren't this year, which is every other year I've been alive. And yeah, I'm not. I would say I am a nostalgic person. I don't usually find myself getting crippled by nostalgia, but I have this year in a way that I haven't before. I found that it's something I have to actively fight against and make sure I'm looking toward the future and being in the moment and not just reminiscing or longing for the past. And like I said, I think for me personally, a lot of that has to do with just the year we're in, right? Like we've been almost a year now of not traveling, not seeing people, not doing the things we're used to doing. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's something for anyone that they have to worry about it as they get older, for sure.
I just think of like the Facebook memories thing. I think that's the cruelest thing that anyone has ever
done.
Don't open that stuff.
Yeah. It's the worst. It's like, but it's not. Sometimes it's just not even like by control. It just happens.
I know it's programmed though to get that out of you. That's why
it's like, hey, 3 years ago this was happening. It's like, wow, I looked thinner and I had more hair. Awesome. Like, you know.
I get that a lot. I'm like when I see when people tag me photos, and I don't know, I'm not that insecure, but I'll be like, oh man, I had so much more hair a few years ago. Like I'll look at that. Hey, you know who's holding his daggers? Is Mark Zuckerberg, Mike. You got to take the daggers away from him.
Yeah, well, Zuckerberg's my favorite. I love Zuckerberg.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He fucking sucks.
Well,
hope he's on the Green Mile one of these days. No, I'm just joking.
We're just joking, everyone. I'm sure we'll share this episode on Facebook and listen. Why don't we move on to our next category, which is a little something called Word Processor of the Gods.
And we're going to make a new rule. Whenever I'm in here, you hear me typing. Whether you don't hear me typing, what the fuck you hear me doing in here, when I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. Now, do you think you can handle that?
Yeah.
Fine. Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
Welcome to Word Processor of the Gods, a cheerier section of the podcast, where we talk about some of our favorite individual writing, individual passages, sentences, which we do a little bit in Cemetery also, but this doesn't necessarily have to be spooky. I don't know if this is my favorite paragraph, but it's just the one. I don't know. I feel like I always go for late in the game ones. I'm just gonna, if it's okay, read just this last little graph. Because it's weird. I think this drives home the theme of the book in a way I maybe wish it was driven home just a little bbit earlier on. I think this is the most punishment and penance we get from Paul Edgecombe. Okay, so this is obviously the end. It's the end where he's just in Georgia Pines, essentially waiting to die when everyone else around him has died, including Elaine, his friend, and Mr. Jingles, and no one else has. I lie here and wait. I think about Janice, how I lost her, how she ran away red through my fingers in the rain, and I wait. We each owe a death. There are no exceptions. I know that. But oh, sometimes, oh God, the Green Mile is so long. And I feel like that does really bind the Green Mile to the rest of the book as this metaphor, not just for these death row inmates, but for everyone, right? The Green Mile is life. It's the walk toward death. And Paul's is especially long because of everything he did. Like that's the closest the book gets to me to recognizing sin and penance. And I think it really does work for me because it solves a lot of the issues that we have with Paul's character along the way, at least for me. So that's kind of my GOAT paragraph for the book. But what about the rest of you?
It's kind of related to the one. It's the page right before what you just read, Dan, and it's when I think kind of his thesis on religion, I think kind of comes out when he's just kind of reflecting. And he says, I think back to the sermons of my childhood, booming affirmations in the church of pray Jesus, the Lord is mighty. And I recall how the preachers used to say that God's eye is on the sparrow, that he sees and marks even the least of his creations. When I think of Mr. Jingles and the tiny scraps of wood we found in that hole and beam, I think that is so. Yet this same God sacrificed John Coffey, who tried only to do good in his blind way, as savagely as any Old Testament prophet ever sacrificed a defenseless lamb, as Abraham would have sacrificed his own if actually called upon to do so. I think of John saying that Wharton killed the Dederick twins with their love for each other, and that it happens every day all over the world. If it happens, God lets it happen. And when we say, I don't understand, God replies, I don't care. And that part has stuck with me, and just kind of, I think it's like the melancholy ending of like, yes, all of these things happened. I don't know what the bigger meaning is. I just know that they happened and that I'm powerless, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
that reminded me a lot of, I was going to save it for King's Dominion, but the Pavlar that Roland has with Flag, when the idea of like the indifferent God that I don't understand, and God's like, I don't care. It's the size that defeats us of the universe.
I think that ties to what Pfleegor was saying before too, like Paul being this mostly reactionary character, because once again he doesn't quite put those lessons into play. Like he has the cognizance but maybe he's realizing them so late in his life at this point, right? Maybe he didn't realize them when he did kill Coffee, and it's taken decades to really put these into action. But there's nothing left for him to put it in action toward. All his friends are dead. He doesn't have any kind of job that has any sort of moral weight on himself anymore. He's just this old guy in a nursing home, which is pretty scary in itself.
It really reminded me of like a Kurt Vonnegut character, because like Kurt Vonnegut writes himself into his books as sort of an omniscient narrator, sometimes a character that interacts, makes observations, affects the story, but doesn't really change. And that's Paul for me.
Yeah. What was one of your passages, Pfleegor?
I'll go with this one just because I thought it was kind of funny, but when Paul's discussing what it's like to work with Percy, he says, working with him was sort of like trying to defuse a bomb with someone standing behind you and every now and then clashing the pair of cymbals together. In a word, upsetting. I've had some colleagues like that too, where you're just like, as soon as they walk in the room, you're just, you know, your shoulders shrug up a little bit. You're just like, oh God, please don't.
Name names. Is anyone on the podcast?
It was,
no
one on the podcast.
What about you, Mike? I know you got some good word processing for us.
I got a few. One of the things I love about King too is, God, if there was ever an author that was destined for AOL Messenger, when we used to like put like quotes on our like away messages, and you'd be like, just have like good quotes that you could look up. King would definitely be at the top. Like this is definitely one of them on page 95, Pocketbooks. In the movies, salvation is cheap. So is innocence. You pay a quarter, and a quarter's worth is just what you get. Real life costs more, and most of the answers are different. Great line. Great lines right there. Just good stuff that like it's like a nugget of truth right there. I love it. I would have if I was Googling things like, cynical quotes or something like that, or like real life quotes or something like that, I'd definitely find that and be like, all right, I'm going to put this on my AOL Messenger away message and go to class. Another one is right here on page 253. Meanness is like an addicting drug. No one on earth is more qualified to say than me. And I thought that after a certain amount of experimentation, Percy had gotten hooked on it. He liked what he had done to Delacroix's mouse. What he had liked even more was Delacroix's dismayed screams. It's good character building right there. And then also the other one that I have a bunch of them in this book.
Okay, but like,
one of the things I also love is just when he's able to find the good kickers and the good buttons for any of his sections. I think about like Richard Dreyfuss at the end of Stand By Me when he's trying to figure out the ending, and then he stands there and he like turns it off. I feel like that's a great personification of like what King is like probably when he finishes like each one of his sections, because so many of his kickers are just so fucking good. And like one of my favorites is, I mean, with the exception of the ending is one that probably his best last line in any book. But this last line right here in on page 259. Again, Pocketbooks. Percy nodded, and I let him out of the chair. He straightened his uniform shirt, tucked it in at the back, gave his hair a pass-through with his comb. Then he looked at us. Okay, I agree. I'm out front for Dell tomorrow night. I'll put it in for Briar Ridge the next day. We call it quits right there. Good enough? Good enough, I said. That look was still in his eyes, but right then I was too relieved to care. He stuck out his hand. Shake on it? I did. So did Brutal. More fools us. Like that's such a cool sentence. Like more fools us. I love it.
I think too that captures, speaking of what Pfleegor was saying about having coworkers like Percy. Now I don't know if I've worked with anyone who is quite as bad as Percy, but I feel like we do always have those people who you kind of just have to appease them until they get out of the room, and it's and you just hope that either they get fired before they do anything too bad, or that they just don't do the bad thing. I feel like they capture that really well. Aside from Percy's worst impulse, it's just this idea of working with someone who you're just, no one's easy around, like you can never relax around them. I think that's really good.
Yeah, it's toxic. Can I do one more quote and then pass it off to you, Jen? Because I know you have a few more.
Yeah.
So this it kind of ties a little bit to mud cake or pound cake. Sorry,
mud cake.
We're gonna call it that for when we get to it in a minute. We're doing mud cake.
We're obviously talking about. I have the mud hole in my notes, which I'm sure everyone does.
Big bottom, baby.
Talk about mud cakes, mud girls,
mud
flaps. Oh God, man, that's so funny. I love how my favorite thing in that song is how he says, "Come around Monday, 'twas my lucky Monday." I love that he says "twas." It's
"twas my." I love that song. God,
"Twas my lucky Monday." Sorry, go ahead, Pfleegor.
Yeah, now I'm totally thrown off. Well, this is about being in love in your silver years. But I noticed there's a lot, and insomnia. There's a lot of this too of like, what is it like to be in love when you're that old? And it's something that King writes a lot about, and I think I can only imagine he thinks a lot about. Mm-hmm. But when Paul is talking, is it, I believe, Evelyn in the...
Elaine?
Elaine, yeah. Mm-hmm. He says, a lot of the problems and heartaches that go with being boyfriend and girlfriend have simply burned out of us. And although I know that no one although I know no one under the age of, say, 50 would believe this, sometimes the embers are better than the campfire. Mm-hmm. It's strange, but it's true. And I think that's a very sweet passage, the idea of like, the campfire's gone out, it's maybe not burning as hot. Mm-hmm. But I do think back to like when I go camping, and sometimes the best times are literally toward the end of the night when, everyone's a little more relaxed and chill. And if you compare that to what it's like having a love life that lasts the entire span of your life, it's just interesting to think about.
Mm-hmm. I had that marked too. One of the ones that's a little similar to that is at the very end when he's finished telling the story, and it's on part 6, page 108. The first morning passed, and the first afternoon, and then the first shift back at work. Time takes it all, whether you want it to or not. Time takes it all, time bears it away, and in the end, there is only darkness. Sometimes we find others in that darkness, and sometimes we lose them there again. And I just thought and then it's followed by the first lines of the book, too, which I thought is just such a nice little bookend for it.
King's just good at talking about time in general. I think even when he was younger, he was good at talking about time. I feel like his passages in The Dead Zone and The Stand and now this, anytime he talks about aging and time, I feel like he has a really uncanny ability to really hit you where it hurts. It never fails. Even in his worst books, I think he can do that really well.
I agree, yeah. And one of the other ones that I had was a little bit like that, where it's on part 2, page 55, and he's talking about the Great Depression, which is so I'll just read it first. I suspect there are people who wouldn't understand why that was, even after all I've said, but they would be people who only knew the Great Depression from the history books. If you were there, it was a lot more than a phrase in a book. And I thought about that so much now because 5 years from now, we're going to be telling people, maybe 20 years from now, we're going to be telling people what this year was like, and we all stayed home for a year. But the actual experience of doing it every single day and not knowing, I just loved how he brought that. That's we don't think about the Great Depression that way. We think about it as a finite thing, but it just made me think about the experience of being there. And it did kind of give me a little more understanding of why Paul didn't do what he did. Why, I have criticized him a lot for not acting, but I mean, there's a good reason that he didn't, I don't know, maybe not a good reason. And then, the last one that I had that I just love is on the very first page when he's talking about Old Sparky, and he says, and I think that for most men, the truth of what was happening to them finally hit all the way home when their ankles were being clamped to the stout oak of Old Sparky's legs. The realization came then. You would see it rising in their eyes, a kind of cold dismay, that their own legs had finished their careers. The blood still ran in them, the muscles were still strong, but they were finished all the same. They were never going to walk another country mile or dance with a girl in a barn raising. Old Sparky's clients came to a knowledge of their death from the ankles up, which I think is just so cool and chilling,
Yeah, it's funny. I like that he mentions it's oak. There's something that's really creepy about the chair being made of wood. The fact that it, you wouldn't associate that with being something that's going to conduct electricity. I mean, I guess it doesn't. It's the cap that conducts the electricity, but still, you would think it's more of a steel thing. The fact that it just looks like an antique oak chair with all this other stuff on it was really creepy to me. Mm-hmm. What about you, Mike? Did you have any more?
Yeah, I had a few. There's some just great dreamy descriptions that he does, especially when he starts getting into a lot of Southern Gothic imagery, and just looks really gorgeous. And One is on page 294. Again, pocketbooks. I fell asleep thinking of a Piney Woods Atonement, and Edward Delacroix, whatever. On fire. On fire as he rode the lightning, and Melinda Moore's, and my big boy with the endlessly weeping eyes. These thoughts twisted their way into a dream. In it, John Coffey was sitting on a riverbank and bawling his inarticulate calf's grief up at the early summer sky, while on the other bank a freight train stormed endlessly toward a rusty trestle spanning the Trapingus. In the crook of each arm, the black man held the body of a naked, blonde-haired girl child. His fists, huge brown rocks at the ends of those arms, were closed. All around him, crickets chirred and nosums flocked. The day hummed with heat. In my dream, I went to him, knelt before him, and took his hands. His fists relaxed and gave up their secrets. In one was a spool colored green and red and yellow. In the other was a prison guard's shoe. I couldn't help it, John Coffey said. I tried to take it back, but it was too late. And this time, in my dream, I understood him. And it's, just a lot of great imagery there.
Yeah. Mooncalf is a very Faulknerian word, I feel like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You could just tell he did his research with the Southern writing. And then, like, King always says it and stresses it in on-writing. He stresses it on Twitter every other month. You're not a writer if you're not reading. And you could tell he read a ton of Southern literature going into this book.
Yeah. The dialect never really bothered me, and I'm pretty particular about Southern accents and Southern dialect.
How was Mike's just a little while ago?
It was good. It was nice. It was great. I can tell
I never
you've
really
been
got
reading
to
a
live
lot
in the
about
South.
Southern stuff.
Yeah. I guess the most South I've ever been was like Tallahassee, because I don't really consider Miami the South. That's like kind of like
Miami, the further north in Florida. It's weird. Where Pfleegor and I grew up near Tampa, the whole town wasn't Southern sounding necessarily, but there was like a part of town that was like there was still a lot of backwoodsy people that had Southern accents there. But even
that's where Caffrey would hang out a lot, and I would be like, "Why are you going mud bogging?"
I mean, we went to some of those parties. They were messed up, man. I don't know. There was
those mud boggers are crazy.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast. Yeah. Did you have another one, Mike?
I did, but I think we've.
I think that's a good one to go out on.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like
I didn't even think of the Faulkner thing, though. I think that's a good observation.
It's like in Saving Private Ryan, where they ask Tom Hanks about his wife's flowers, and he's like, "No, that one's just for me."
I love that.
That's really good. Well, we're getting out of the class, and we're gonna dive into the trash right now. And my personal favorite category, something for this episode and this episode only, is called Mud Cake.
After all you've been taught, everyone isn't bad, Mama. Everything isn't a sin. Come to your closet and pray. Ask to be forgiven. He's a nice boy, Mom. You like him. You really like him, Mama.
Welcome to Mud Cake, a.k.a. Pound Cake, where we...
a.k.a. trash to ass.
Lord.
Oh, God. Where we talk about some of King's bawdier passages. Sometimes it can just be gross, dirty things that are funny. Sometimes it can be things that are unintentionally funny and not meant to be funny. It doesn't always have to do with sex, but although it does a lot of the time, and a lot of the time it has to do with poop, with pee, with just scatological humor in general. I'll go ahead and start. Now, this is one that I think King knows he's being funny, and I'm just going to read because I think it's pretty funny, too. It's when they're doing the mock execution for the chief before Chief actually gets executed, and old Toot Toot has to stand in for him. And so they're doing his last rites. They say, "God save the people of the state. Do you have anything to say before your sentence is carried out?" "Yeah," Toot said, eyes gleaming, lips bunched in a toothless happy grin. "I want a fried chicken dinner with gravy on the taters. I want a shit in your hat, and I got to have Mae West sitting on my face because I am one horny motherfucker." And King knows he's being funny because it makes all the guards laugh, and then Paul Edgecombe chastises them chastises too, because he's like, if you think of that later on during an actual execution, we're gonna be in trouble. But I actually think that's a case of King trying to be funny and actually being really funny. I
love that you almost said Tom Hanks.
I know. I was wondering if I was gonna catch that. And that was on page. I realized I'm not getting page numbers. 93 of who's the publisher of the first volume, or of the total volume? Plume. It's in that first compilation of all the serial novels. This is not too many pages later on 98, which is during the actual execution. I don't think King is trying to be funny here, but I'll go ahead and read it. So this is reading the actual execution of Arlen Bitterbuck, aka the Chief. There was no flopping and flailing such as old Toot Toot had done at rehearsal, only that powerful forward surge, as a man may surge forward from the hips while in the grip of a powerful orgasm. Now, on its own, maybe that's not the worst description, but I've noticed King in a lot of his books, he always does these bits where people are thrusting forward from electricity or some other force, and he always compares it to an orgasm. He does it in It, where the adults are all joining hands and feeling the power surge through them. I think he actually mentions Beverly like thrusting forward 3 times like she's having sex, and then they do it in The Regulators, they do it in Desperate. It's all over the place. So I think and like I said, it is accurate, but you get a good visual image from that. But I just think it's a device that just strikes me as very funny. What do y'all have? I didn't write down the dirtiest pound cake. I know I knew someone else was going to talk about the warden's wife and other things. So yeah, who's got some nasty ass mud cake for us? Stop giggling like schoolgirls. Come on, just say.
There's some. I don't know. There's just some like kind of cheeky ones that basically is what caused us to create pound cake in the first place. But like, it's early on when Paul's home, and even the dialogue is just weirdly stilted. But I just think it's funny. Well, forget that rotten apple and come on back to bed, she said. This is Jan. I've got something that'll help you sleep, and you can have all you want. And then Paul's just like, that sounds good, but I think we'd better not. It's just like,
it's always
just
funny
the way he
because
says that. It seems that sounds good. It sounds like they're like debating in like Billy Madison with like the two video games. But, you know, Donkey Kong is a very good game, but Mortal Kombat's better. Like,
I disagree. Right. It's a very good game.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think sometimes too with King, his married couples always have the most amazing sex lives. And I know we all say silly things when we're having sex or in the throes of passion, but I think they're always too clever by half. Not to get too graphic, but I don't think my wife and I have ever said something that zingy to each other, like, oh, I got something for you. You know, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like people talk to you.
Susan, shit in my hat, girl.
Nasty.
Well, speaking of saying weird things while you're being intimate, one of the ones that I pulled was in part 6 when they have just finished making their sweet love, and he's still on top of her, and then he starts crying, still on top of her, mind you. And she asks him what's wrong, and he says, I know everything there is to know, I said through my tears. I know too goddamn much if you want to know the truth. I'm supposed to electrocute John Coffey in less than a week's time, but it was William Wharton who killed the Dederick girls. It was Wild Bill. And he's saying all of that like, yeah. He's probably still inside her when he's saying that.
She's like, Paul, I feel bad for you, but can you pull out first?
Yeah, you're kind of squishing me a little bit.
I love that.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a very weird time to have that. I guess King was thinking he was in like the throes of passion and he had to like kind of purge some of these thoughts, but it is a very bizarre place to have that revelation.
I mean, I'm glad he's not doing it while he's thrusting. That would be more disturbing, I think.
Yeah.
There's an episode of Sex and the City where Charlotte dates someone who cannot climax unless he shouts something really, really offensive. And that's what it reminded me of.
It's kind of funny. What else? Who else has got some?
The pee-pee poo-poo kind of runs throughout. But I from a more mature standpoint, unlike you guys, I saw it as tying to the idea of it being institutionalized and not having control of things. Whether that's the institution of like a prison, a retirement home, or a disease like a urinary tract infection or the cancer. The one big one was William Wild Bill throws urine at Harry that he's been saving up all day. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. When Paul describes the retirement home, it's the smell of diapers and people going to the bathroom on themselves. And then even him when he has the urinary tract infection, when he pees, it hurts. So it's I think there's the larger idea of just not having the ability to control your own body, whether it's simple as going to the bathroom or being incarcerated, was kind of interesting. But go back to shitting in the hat, Caffrey. That was no, I'm just kidding. No, but I was looking through the text though. I was like, wow, there's so many references to.
Yeah,
pee pee poo poo. That's it. He loves it.
One piss is even Hal Moore's does it on page 48. He's like, "I'm not her," Morris said in his cultured Southern voice. "But if I was, I'd raise up my skirts and I'd piss on you from the loins that gave you my birth or gave you birth or whatever." It's just like,
and And when Percy gets the insects in him, I believe he like shits and pisses himself at the
same
time.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not bad enough that he pisses his pants. He's got to unload in his back end.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad because I remember there was this kid in my middle school, and there was a rumor that at summer camp one time he threw up and went to the bathroom in his pants at the same time. And this kid like pulled me aside and was like, "You see him? Do you want to know what happened?" And I was like, "What?" He told me that.
You
and I don't
go
know.
see a body that shit itself.
I was like, "No, Dan Caffrey's really nice to me." It wasn't. Sorry, I'm just picking on you today.
I just did watch Grown Ups 2, which is my lead. I'm a generous Adam Sandler film watcher, and that is by far the worst of his films. And one of the running bits is that Kevin James's character can sneeze, shit, and burp at the same, or sneeze, fart, and burp at the same time throughout the movie. So yeah, it's great.
I feel like your ears would pop.
Yeah.
I feel like my eyes would pop watching it.
What do you mean? Does anyone have? Because we're on the warden. Does anyone? We got to talk about. I mean, we talked a little bit about her already, but yeah. Anyone want to read any Melinda passages?
Why don't you do the honors, Dan? Because
I don't know if he wrote on the pages. Let me see if I can.
I have 374 for that page that you're talking about.
Yeah, you go ahead, Mike. If you have the page, you go ahead and read it.
Oh Lord. Yeah, I mean, I mean, I think you could find it on there if you want to take the honors.
Just Google find mud hole. Okay, wait, hold on.
Yeah,
here.
right.
Yeah,
here, I'm
acting like Dan hasn't dog-eared this page like 10 times.
Right. Here, I got it. Here, hold on. Here,
you just get my 3 bookmarks out of the same page.
Wait, here we go. Okay, Halmore's. I'm just Warren. Oh, here we go. So, well, she says when she greets the boys with, "Who are you talking to, you fucking cocksucker?" That's one of them.
It's literally a Rob Zombie movie.
Oh, here we go. I got it. No, she does. It's like she turns into a Rob Zombie character. I'm not going to read the racial stuff she says. But here we go. Here's the iconic line. So funny. I mean, it's like, once again, I don't think it would stand out to me as much if we hadn't seen this from other King characters in other books. But here we go.
Mm-hmm.
As if in answer, the old woman's voice rose again, querulous and certain and utterly lost. "Come in here and poke my mud hole, you son of a bitch. Bring your asshole friends, too. Let them all have a turn." Which is in the movie. I remember the mud hole thing from the film, too. I mean, it is...
Does she really say the mud hole thing in the movie?
I think she does.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. Constant listeners, if anyone's watched the movie recently, I'm going to rewatch it soon. Please confirm that for us if mud hole does make its way onto the celluloid.
Mud hole detectives. On the job.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other pound cake, or do we want to go out on the mud cake?
Yeah, one more with when Paul does get his urinary tract infection healed. He goes home and he has sex multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was kind of funny because that's a fear that men have when they were aging, and I think a lot of Stephen King's literature reveals that it's like, well, I still be able to get it up when I get older. And the funny thing is, this book was published in 1996, and in 1996, the FDA approved Viagra as a medicine. It was actually fast-tracked and approved 2 years sooner than it was supposed to be. So
of course
I wonder, I wonder.
They probably were reading The Green Mile, and they're like, "God, I hope that doesn't happen to me."
I know.
I will say on that same section, in that same section, Dan, to Jen's point from before, this is literally another section. And as I moved in her sweetness, slipping through it in the slow way that she liked, that we both liked, I thought of John Coffey saying he'd help it. And it's like, were you thinking of this guy while you're having sex with your wife? Like,
in her
fucking nuts?
Sweetness. Wait, did someone... Was it me or Jen? Maybe someone texted on the thread. Oh, I just got to the part where Paul is in his wife's sweetness. I mean, was that
I think
me?
that was you.
Was that me? I can't believe I didn't write that down. I meant to flag that for some sweet cake.
It's just bizarre that I get it that you think of, if you're going to go by the advice of one of my favorite characters, Steve from Singles, you have to think of things that are going to keep your mind off it so you keep going. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'd think about the man on death row,
the miraculous man I have to execute unfairly.
You shouldn't bring your work home with you too.
Right.
Yeah, or in bed.
Yeah.
But there's some other ones I think. But
yeah, I have one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
That is like the big one for me for the movie and the book, and I actually can't even read it anymore because
it's not mud hole.
No, it's the moon pie. It is so disgusting. I have like spit and puke are like my two. I would rather clean up, like change diapers and all that stuff. But spit and like chewed up food is so disgusting to me. I actually had to skip ahead because I couldn't read this.
The mud pie,
and it's
also,
like that's like it's ruined Pet Sematary 2 for me. The mashed potatoes.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, that's net. Yeah, I generally don't like messy food faces anyway. And there's something about the texture of a moon pie. I'll eat a moon pie. I'm not the world's biggest moon pie fan either. So even just like, ugh, that's kind of nasty.
Who is the world's biggest moon pie fan? Please,
Jasper from The Simpsons, right? Because he sees he thinks it's from the future. He's like frozen
Yes.
in Quickie Mart, and he sees that.
Oh my God.
I also realized 2 seconds ago I said mud pie, not moon pie. So the mud hole is really on the mind.
You should get off of this and watch Jeff Nichols' Mud.
I've never seen Mud actually.
Oh, it's a good movie.
Matthew
It's
McConaughey?
really good.
Yeah, it's the beginning of his reconnaissance.
I do like Jeff Nichols stuff a lot, so maybe I will. And I like his
Well, I have
brother
something that-
Ben Nichols in the band.
I have something
Lucero.
I do have something that ties with the Mud.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's on page 237. Oh wow, King's Dominion right there.
Ooh. Yeah, listen,
dish
this
of
will be a
oat-
good segue into the next category. Read it.
Oh,
Go
nice,
ahead.
nice. A dish of oatmeal. Perhaps even a scrambled egg with a sausage on the side. I love sausage, always have. But if I eat more than one these days, I'm apt to get the squitters.
The squitters.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say squirts.
Squitters.
Maybe it's a typo, but it just says squitters.
Maybe
What the
I
fuck
I
is
just
that?
got bored saying the squirts.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
like
you
a king
probably-
colloquialism. Like he's like squirt mixed with shit. Squitters. Ugh. Well, we're gonna move back into the classy zone. Well, not necessarily. There's probably some conspiracy theories here, which I don't think are classy, especially these days. But we're going to go into a category we like to call King's Dominion.
There's another world out there. I know there is.
Welcome to King's Dominion, where we talk about this book's connection to the greater King canon, his other works, and we, of course, have a little... We like to put conspiracy theories or far-reaching things into Room 237, which we'll save for the very end of this. I did not have a ton, so I'd be curious to... I mean, it makes sense because this book takes place a long time ago. It doesn't have energy vampires. I mean, I guess you could argue that John Coffey could be in the same class as Charlie McGee and Danny Torrance and a lot of these other characters that have not healing abilities like he does, but empathic abilities, telepathic abilities. But I didn't have anything too. Was there even a mention of Shawshank in here? You feel like there would be, but I don't think there was. What do y'all have? Yeah,
no.
I thought the fight in the laundry room with the acid similar to how he defends himself. But
just being a prison drama. Yeah. What else?
There are a lot of references to 19. If you had those, Dan.
Yeah. So when Mr. Jingles visits and then leaves, Brutal pulls out a pencil and marks him as a visitor, and they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Obeying Regulation 19. Each visitor to E-Block shall show a yellow administration pass and shall be recorded without fail."
I'm so bad at discovering the 19s in the books.
Yeah.
There's more 19 too.
Oh yeah, that's the only one I got.
Yeah.
What there's a few other ones.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Well, there's some also 237. I thought Brad Dolan, Dolan's Cadillac. No, so stupid. I mean, it's probably just the name on the mind. But
hey, he's got to get to work somehow, though.
Yeah, right. Maybe.
I mean, this isn't too long after Dolan's Cadillac, so
it wasn't. It wasn't too long at all.
And I think Jen might have said this quote earlier, but it was "Time takes it all, whether you want it to or not." And I thought about the Langoliers.
On page 110, I was deeply in love. You see, with the young woman who is to become my wife 2 weeks after my 19th birthday.
Ah, man, good catch.
I found a 237, and I'm usually really bad at finding those.
Yeah, this is my worst category. I'm like not good
I
at this.
know. But I found this one. Okay, it's on the last page, and it says, or next to the last page, I have at least one old man's ill. I suffer from insomnia.
Oh.
I
mean, he is old, and Ralph is old in Insomnia. This isn't too long after Insomnia either, so.
That's true. Yeah.
What if Ralph just shuffled over? It was just like,
he cut out the chapter where he's talking about his brother Ralph, who lives up north.
Looking for the bus station. I need to get back to Derry. On page 158, more 19. Crazy, wild, and proud of it. Wharton is 19 years old, and he just doesn't care. He'd underline that part.
That almost, the way you read that made it sound like an introduction to a contestant on Room Raiders or something.
Yeah.
Can I do a pretty deep dive one on the Dark Tower?
Yeah, let's. I would say. I mean, I know there aren't many, so let's do some 237.
I think this one
kind of
works.
Stuff.
This is a pretty good conspiracy theory one. When Wild Bill kills the girls, he heads to the river and he heads northeast along the river, whereas John Coffey heads southwest, and that's where he gets found. And it also, in the Dark Tower, Eddie, Susanna, and Roland, they head southwest as they follow the path of the beam. So it seems that evil people would head northeast against the beam, whereas the good people head southwest, which is the path of the beam. It also, in The Stand, the characters, when they head from Hemingford home to the Boulder Free Zone to Vegas, they're also traveling southwest. Finally, in, I believe it's Calling of the Three, when Flag is being chased, he gets to the Western Sea and he heads northeast, whereas Roland heads southwest. So it just seems to be a connection of direction there, that the good characters follow the path of the beam, whereas Flag and Wild Bill go the opposite direction.
I don't think that's too
I love
far-reaching.
that.
That's good. That's
awesome.
a good one.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for letting me. It's tricky with all the directions, but I was literally looking at maps, and if you think of a lot of the characters too in The Stand, they start in Maine, and I followed the map, and it's literally, I was on Google Maps finding they're always traveling southwest when they're going in a righteous direction.
It's funny because I feel like too, King does, and this could come from Tolkien, although I think in Lord of the Rings, Mordor is to the east. But either way, I feel like King always posits evil in the West. Like you always have, like in Desperation and the Regulators and The Stand and I guess the Green Mile too.
Witch of the West.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. So I guess maybe there. I wonder if there is some. I don't know, some kind of study of that, of like West, like, I mean, hey,
I think it's also
America's the West. We're
yeah,
evil.
but it ties to like that manifest destiny of like people are always being encouraged to discover the West, right? We already know what happens in the East, but the West is the unknown, so therefore it could be potentially more evil, but that's still the destiny that we're supposed to travel accordingly.
Yeah, nice. Any other?
Yeah.
I think that's actually really good.
That was
Room
an awesome
237.
one.
That's
Okay,
a good
thank
one.
you. I was.
No,
sure
you remembered the face of your father, Pfleegor. I have a weird loose Dark Tower, and I think you already mentioned it, and someone might have read it for the Cemetery or for Word Processor, but just in case, I wanted to put that as a prelude. On page 174, it's when Paul is with Coffee. A jolt slammed through me then, a big painless whack of something. It made me jerk on the cot and bow my back. It made me think of old Toot, shouting that he was frying. He was a dumb Tom Turkey. There's no heat, no feeling of electricity, but for a moment, the colors seemed to jump out of everything, as if the world had been somehow squeezed and made to sweat. I could see every pore on John Coffey's face. I could see every bloodshot snap in his haunted eyes. I could see a tiny healing scrape on his chin. I was aware that my fingers were hooked down into the claws in the thin air, and that my feet were drumming on the floor of Coffey's cell. And you might have already mentioned this already, Flair, so I apologize, but that kind of reminds me of like in The Gunslinger when Roland is literally like having that sort of like clairvoyant moment with Walter. Or the Man in Black, and he kind of sees the whole universe. And then when he comes to, the guy's a skeleton or whatever, because he's been sitting there thinking about it for so long. That, I don't know, there's that way, the way that he kind of gets in the razor focus of all the movement of the universe just seemed a little parallel there, but that's a little more Room 237 than anything.
Reminds me kind of the not mud room, what in it, like the dugout that they build too.
Yeah.
Where they start to see all of the.
And the only other one that is something I've been kind of hinting at throughout the last two episodes is the idea that the way that King shades good and evil here with regards to forces and those forces basically controlling certain aspects of time and the consequences that come from those actions. We see it when Coffee gets to the Moore's residence, and how Paul mentions that there was a force that was trying to prevent them from going there, and that force relented when Coffee appeared. And he says it. He says, "I believe there is good in the world, all of it flowing in one way or another from a loving God, but I believe there's another force as well, one every bit as real as the God I have prayed to my whole life, and that it works consciously to bring all our decent impulses to ruin." And that kind of reminded me of the way that and this is not so much of a spoiler because we haven't gotten to this book, but the way that time works in 11/22/63, and especially when, Jake in that book, he kind of rests on his own impulses, especially when it comes to love and anger, and how the world sort of he basically, it's been a while since I've read it, but I think he ties it to like almost like threads in the world or something like that. And like the threads keep like popping off, and, then you have the yellow card man that's like screaming at him and stuff. But I felt there was some symmetry there. And I felt that it was not just symmetry into what's actually happening, but the way King thinks about, our worlds and our realities and the beam and
I was gonna say it's
yada,
very
yada,
similar
yada.
to beamology, I think.
But,
and I pulled something that's related to that too, where he does go visit the Moore's residence, and he says, and it was the other spirit, something white. That's how I think of it, as something white, which took control of the situation. And he has mentioned that. I cannot put my finger on what book it is, but he's talking about the coming of the white and that it's like this force for good. Now, I feel like it reads a little differently, probably 20 years after he wrote it, but he does tend to like personify like these forces and how they are kind of in balance with each other.
God, that is right. What is that book? It's not The Stand, is it? That seems too easy to say The Stand, but I think
I can't remember. I want to say Bag of Bones, but it's been a while.
It was weird. I was going to say Bag of Bones too, but I haven't read. It's been decades since I read that one.
Yeah well, maybe it is, and we're both right.
I mean, we'll see soon. Bag of Bones is not too, well, not soon, but
right.
Maybe it's Cooge.
You know, just Cooge.
Just joking.
Gerald's game. Yeah,
it's always Cooge.
Well,
Cooge.
I think those are some. I think those are actually some pretty juicy conspiracy theories. I wouldn't even call them conspiracy theories. I would call them facts. Alternative facts.
Are they theories if they're
yeah. But it's our time on the mile is coming to an end, and we're walking down that lime green linoleum to our final place in the light, much like Tom Hanks does in the Green Mile trailer. At the end, we see him walking to that golden light. We are going to go into our final and overall thoughts.
Dad, can we go now?
You ready?
Yeah, we've been ready for an hour.
Okay, I'll be right there.
You said that a half hour ago. Yeah, my dad's weird. He gets like that when he's writing.
All right, so obviously we don't have a fun name for this one. It's just our overall thoughts on the Green Mile, the novel. I'll go ahead and start off, and then we'll pass the baton. We talked a lot about the racial problems of this book, and a lot of that too has to do with King in many ways taking on, I think, a pretty noble undertaking, and maybe not always quite meeting it, or not always quite meeting it when it comes to race and everything. You can feel him struggling with that throughout the book. Like I've been saying throughout the whole episode, though, I love the plotting, I love the storytelling, I love the serial format. I feel very satisfied when I read the end of this book, and even in some of those last passages that we read in Word Processor of the Gods, I don't want to say it completely absolves King of some of his shortcomings earlier on, but it at least starts to acknowledge them a little bit, and it starts to really lean on morality and this idea of penance and retribution. So when I end this book, I feel very satisfied. I think it's a great story. I'm going to go ahead and give it 4.5 white wed Pennywise clown noses. I don't know if I'm really overrating it, because I do feel like we were pretty critical on this episode, but I like to go off of that overall feeling I have when I finish the book. And when I put this down, I felt like it was such a satisfying read. I will go ahead and pass not the baton. I will go ahead and pass my Hickory Billy Club, or truncheon, whatever you want to call it, to Jen. What's your overall rating?
Well, this is probably the 6th or 7th time that I've either read or listened to this, and I would put it, for a long time I put it in my top 10. I think I probably would have given it a 4.5 or 5 if I had not reread it this year, because there's so much that I love. I think it's one of his best endings. I think there's a lot of like catharsis in there. Like, I didn't mention this in the word processor, but like the parts where Percy, the Percy Smackdown is what I kept calling it in my notes. Like, that's really satisfying. There's a lot of really beautiful writing, and the ending, like you said, Dan, the ending just leaves me, it's just like really poignant in a way that I love. And I think it's consistently interesting throughout. That said, this read, it just hurt more to read this because I feel like the harshness really stood out every time they talked about a crime. I feel like, and it could just be that I'm reading it in 2020 and I'm extra sensitive to this stuff, you know? Right. Yeah. And I just kind of, with all of the stuff that I talked about in the first episode, like, I feel like it's hard for me to draw the line between what Paul thinks and what Stephen King thinks here. That just kind of rubbed me the wrong way and really kind of knocked it down a little bit. That said, I'll probably reread this again. Like, I really, the things that I love, I think outweigh the things that really bothered me. So I'm going to give it 3.5 white wed Pennywise clown noses.
Who are you passing Percy's Hickory truncheon to?
I shall pass it to Mike.
Aw. It's funny because I actually had a different summary on this when we recorded the first episode, and I didn't know that we were going to split it in half. And I just was sitting around with it for a little bit. And the word I keep coming back to in my head is cohesive. I think this is such an airtight novel. Mm-hmm. Every word counts. Every motivation and quirk feels accounted for. And I think all of that really extends from the fact that, King was able to take his time between each volume, as we discussed, and kind of wish I could do that again, actually. But anyway, the magical Negro trope will always be a big asterisk over this book, and rightfully so, and for all the reasons that we've outlined in the last 2 episodes. But it's really hard to dismiss the prose. I mean, it's so gorgeous. It's King gone Southern Gothic. It's King doing Harper Lee, as I believe Pfleegor mentioned in the first episode. And you know what? It works. It's some of his best writing. I think it proves once again that his strongest muscle to flex isn't horror. Gasp. Whoa. But I think it's in the drama department. I'm not kidding. I mean, you think back to every one of his dramatic works, capital D dramatic works, that we've covered up until this point. And, all of them carry enough argument to be seen as his strongest. I mean, even down to his short stories. So, I mean... And what I think what makes The Green Mile so rich is not just the prose, but also the broader meditations that he's bringing here, on faith, on justice, on morality, and, most importantly, our existence. We talked about the final line. I think it's one of his greatest final lines. I still think that even in considering all the books after this, I think it's still his greatest final line. And I think it speaks to the succinct nature of this novel, and yet also the enduring appeal of it. And because, bottom line is we're, all of us, no matter who we are, no matter what we do, no matter what we believe in, and no matter how we define ourselves, and this is my own final line, we're on the Green Mile. So, God, I'm tossing between, because I'm between 4 and 4.5. So I'm going to go with 4.25. 21.
Just a sliver of a bright red.
Yeah, Pennywise clown noses that with a little bit of jolts of electricity to melt one of them off.
Some cartoon electricity.
Yeah.
All right. Pfleegor, bring us home.
Bring us home. Okay. I think a lot of what you guys said was kind of in my original conclusion, so I'll kind of shift over a little bit here. As someone who was raised religious, who no longer is religious, I still have that tradition, and you're always looking for stories to whether they're symbolic or allegories for the Bible. And in this one, I like it because there's some very obvious symbolism, but then there's some less obvious. Mm-hmm. It's very obvious that the initials JC, John Coffey, is going to be Jesus Christ, but it's a little less obvious that LaCroix means the cross, right? So they're peppering in, Stephen King's peppers in these little things. He heals the leper, right? That takes the sickness out. That's pretty obvious. But when he takes the evil out, it turns into flies. And in the Bible, in the Old Testament, the Book of Kings, Beelzebub is known as the Lord of the Flies.
Love Lord of the Flies.
Right?
Great book.
Yes. So I like that there's the more obvious and the less obvious. It's not a literal, or I shouldn't say literal, but it's not a matching exactly telling of the story of Jesus. But there's enough in there, and there's enough little detail that's added, the perfect amount of spice to make you feel like it's something that you haven't heard before, and it's something you're completely familiar with. Mm-hmm. So for those reasons, I got to give this 4.5 white, wed, Pennywise clown noses.
Nice. I think that we don't have any Gerbelytics here, but I think that comes out to maybe 4 bright.
I think 4.
And it's 16.75 divided by.
Yeah. Do some crunch some numbers for us down the accounting department.
Maybe it's 4.5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we'll see.
It's 4.1875.
Oh wow! So nice. We'll do 4 then. Either way, we liked it with some caveats. Constant listeners, as always, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us on the Mile and at Georgia Pines, home for old folks, where I'm at, staring out my window, hoping Mr. Jingles is okay, but he's not because he dies at the end of this novel. But he's lived a long, happy mouse life. And we're all in Mouseville now. It's been quite a year for us. We've obviously had more time on our hands this year and have done a lot of content for you. We hope you've been enjoying it. Thank you as always for supporting it. But we're not done yet. We have a few more things in store. Immediately in the pipeline, we have the episode on the Green Mile film adaptation. You get a whole episode on that. So tune in. I don't think it will be. Are any of you on that? I don't know if it will be the same crew yet.
I think I'm gonna hop on that maybe. Although I am kind of gremiled out.
I know we're all. I think we're all feeling that end of the year burn too, and it doesn't seem to be slowing up just yet. Maybe we're not in that hibernative state. Maybe it'll happen soon. But either way, you might have some of us on there. It might be a different crew. Definitely tune in though, because there's lots to talk about with the movie as well as the book. And then a bonus Patreon episode. We are going to be doing the greatest hits from the word processor of the gods, which that's going to be very hard to narrow down, so you don't want to miss that. Anything else? Oh, plugs, of course. Let's see. I'm trying to think. For me, I'm always going to be plugging my old Slay SMR channel. We just did an episode on Pet Cemetery. By the time you listen to this, there's probably another episode up, so check that out. What about the rest of you? Who has some plugs to share?
Well, we're about to start December for psychoanalysis, and our theme for this month is going to be Killer Kids. And we're going to start with We Need to Talk About Kevin, which is going to be probably heavy, but it'll be good. And then we're going to finish the month with Better Watch Out, which is another crazy Christmas killer kids movie.
I love that movie.
I know.
I really love that movie.
Yeah, I am a little nervous to revisit it. But we're also going to do some comfort horror that month. And I just watched today The Hitcher, which we're going to do an episode
The original
with
one?
The original one, yeah. And Mel Castle is the one who picked that, and she's going to be doing an episode. And then at the end of December, we're going to be watching Gremlins because Dan Caffrey is going to be joining us.
I'm so excited! I can't wait. I never know, because we're obviously not recording this, but we're recording this before and you've listened to it, and I wasn't sure if I could talk about that, but I'm talking. Yeah, I'm so excited. Yeah, I got Gremlins action figure. It's going to be so fun. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm
that's
excited
great.
Too.
Well, my girlfriend who runs our socials, she's obsessed with Gremlins to the point where
real
I'm staring at 3 separate gizmos right now that are because we have all our Christmas decorations out. So we have a Chia Pet gizmo, we have a regular gizmo that we got at Austin. We were down at South by. We have a green gizmo that was 3D printed. We have a Gremlins montage, and the funny thing is that. And then also we also have a drawing that we bought at Riot Fest of Gremlins. It's just ridiculous. And she's only seen it twice, so it's just the obsession is hilarious. And she has a gizmo costume that she wears all the time. But love Gremlins.
You know, not to feed
heads.
any of them after midnight, right?
Oh, of course. You know, and it's not just because you're going to get those assholes that are the actual Gremlins. It's just because, you know, I don't want to hurt Gizmo. He's like such a good guy. You know,
I know he's
so
he originally in the original script he became Stripe. Gizmo was the evil Gremlin.
Not my Gizmo.
Yeah.
That Joe Dante like totally wanted to do that too.
Oh
like,
yeah, I mean
the
original script isn't great. Like I wouldn't say conceptually it's really cool. It's not the best in terms of plotting dialogue, but there's some really dark sequences. Like, well, hey, you know, I'm going to save it for when I'm on psychoanalysis.
Love it.
What about any other plugs you want to do, or are we good?
I guess I'll say mine.
Do it.
Just find me Dan Pfleegor on Twitter. One thing I wanted to plug that doesn't get enough love, my favorite TV show of the year, now that we're kind of ending things, 000. Go look that up. It's about a shipment of drugs going from Mexico to Italy. Nobody
You're
watched
obsessed with the show.
I know, you told us. I'm sorry. I know none of us have watched it yet.
Mike, you are obsessed with Supernatural. I mentioned your show twice. That does not mean I'm obsessed.
No, I know, but it's so funny.
Have you watched it? No,
I have
so
not
apparently
watched
it has
yet.
not worn. So I'm talking to the listeners here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I watch Gremlins. I'll watch 000. It'll all be good.
No, I'm just saying it definitely made a mark on you. So that's all. Because usually you don't get that way.
My favorite TV show of the year. Yeah. No,
but you don't usually get that way.
All right, well, those are my plugs.
Well, hey, I took your advice for The Boys. Now that's like I fucking love that show. So you know, yeah. I guess we don't have any.
Danny PFL on Instagram.
Yeah, Danny. Follow Pfleegor. And Jen, what's your social handle?
Oh, it's Jenn Ferratu on all of them with 2 N's.
And mine's DW Caffrey. It's spelled like my last name. Come and find us. Come and follow us.
Not like the drink, though, right?
Caffrey. Caffrey like the drink,
D&W?
but spelled different.
D&W root beer.
Exactly.
I'm at Michael Roffman, and one of the last things that we will be doing that we are very excited about, because usually we take a break on the holidays. We're not going to be doing that this year because we're doing week-to-week coverage of The Stand, which is going to be fun.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
You mentioned we need to talk about Kevin. Not to toot our own, but he's in it. Trash Man.
Yeah.
Guess what? We Trash Man. We predicted about it. We called it. and we're leaving it here right now again that we called it. So,
yeah, go back and read
that's
our
it for
King.
me.
We called a lot of these King casting decisions, so go back and read our Stephen King cinematic universe. But
oh yeah, love that one.
But before anyone reads anything further or follows us on socials, we have to do a little farewell, and let's try and do it really nice right now. All right, everyone with me. All right, we will see you in long days and pleasant nights.
I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. But you know you want somebody to treat you good.
Consequence Podcast Network.